Good evening and welcome to this week's edition of Sports Report. On tonight's programme we'll be looking ahead to Gibraltar football's doubleheader against the Republic of Ireland and Georgia with national coach Alan Buller. We'll also catch up with Gibraltar Netball President Moira Gomez with the local and international season about to get underway. We're rounding up the rest of the Rock sporting news at the end of the programme, including a look at the latest round of matches in the GFA Premier Division. We start, however, with the two main sporting events which took place this past weekend, one domestic and one international, as Richard reports.
The RGP's Mini Olympiad has become one of the junior sporting highlights of the calendar year. And as always, this year's event turned out to be a huge success. The youngsters were met by officers from the RGP in the piazza early on Saturday, before marching down to the stadium behind the game's banner, which depicted the game's slogan, "Live Life, Love Sports." Once at the stadium, there was a short opening ceremony before the different sports scattered across the Bayside Sports Complex to their respective venues. There was a large variety of sports on offer, ranging from football and basketball to paddle tennis and even rock climbing. There were over 10 sports on offer for the youngsters to take part in, with each sport being assigned an RGP officer to run the day's activities. There was also an 11-a-side football match between RGP officers and Gibraltar's Special Olympics football team. Besides sport, there were also a wide variety of activities on offer around the complex on Saturday. By the boathouse, the RGP's marine section were providing free boat rides in one of their ribs, which proved as popular as ever with some long queues forming. Later on in the afternoon, there was also a display by the police dog section where various scenarios were played out in order to showcase the ability of the RGP's canine officers. Together with various other activities on offer for all the family to enjoy, the day turned out to be a great way of promoting the slogan, "Live Life, Love Sports." John caught up with one of the organisers of the day's events, Roy Perez, and got his views on how the day went.
I would say it's been quite successful. Last night the whole team, we were preparing the goodie bags for the children, and we prepared over 740 bags. This morning I gave them all out, so it goes to show the amount of children that we've had involved in this particular year.
It's not the first time the Olympiad has come around. It has a message to you. Has that message been delivered to the kids that are participating?
We think so, yes. Our ultimate aim is another way to life other than go towards drugs. That's the main emphasis of the Mini Olympiad, to tell the children that use sports, don't use drugs, and that's the way forward.
How important is a day like this to Gibraltar as a community? Whether it be youngsters, parents that bring their children, grandparents that bring their grandchildren, how important is it as a whole?
Basically, what I'd like to say is that we officers are on uniform and we are approachable. And that's what we're trying to emphasise here. We're all here dressed in uniform, even in this warm weather, and we like people to come forward to us and address us as any other people, and we can help them other than shying away because they've seen a uniform. But that's the main emphasis also.
We're looking at lots of sports. There could be even more sports. Is it something you probably cater for in the near future, maybe next year, even more sports, or have you reached your peak with 700 odd kids taking part?
No, we like to involve all the associations, the more the merrier. Unfortunately, we've had a couple of them dropping out at the last moment, and that's because they've been competing elsewhere abroad. So those things happen. But all associations, regardless how small you are, we welcome them, and this is another way to promote their own sports. And children who once have finished the particular sports can move on to another one, and maybe they can get a good feel about it, and who knows, maybe join that association.
How important is it to start planning now for next year and improving on what you've already got?
That's from next week. Next week we'll have a debrief, see how things have gone, the minor things that we need to tweak on for next year, and start working as from then. It takes a long time to prepare everything. My committee is now a stable committee, and in that sense means that we know what each one of us is going to be doing. But again, we've got a few that will be retiring, so we need to take in those spaces. It starts us from next week. We start talking about it, how to improve, how to better. We've done a couple of changes this year, which I think has benefited all. We've done away with the closing ceremony, made it look slightly bit shorter, especially in the heat. So we're getting there, and we're always open to some thoughts on whether we can improve here or there. So if anybody has any other ideas, they can always come and share it with us.
Teamwork is key then?
Definitely, most definitely, with the children and the organisation itself.
Staying with the Olympiad for a little while longer and associated with Inspector Perez and his family, the traditional start to the day after the opening ceremony was, of course, the keenly contested inter-school relays. The races between Gibraltar's middle schools saw Bishop Fitzgerald win the PC Perez Shield after a touch of confusion over the finishing positions, with Inspector Perez and his mum Angie presenting the annual trophy in memory of their late husband and father.
Last year, Thundercat Racing made its first appearance on the Rock, and this year they were back with an even bigger event. In May of last year it was agreed to hold one of the legs in the British Championships on our shoreline, but this year the organisers agreed to use Gibraltar as the venue for the Europeans. The weekend of racing began on Friday afternoon with a long-haul race which took drivers and their co-pilots around the Rock several times. The 112-kilometre race consisted of 5 laps around the Rock, from Eastern Beach to the Western mile marker and back. Although postponed from Thursday due to severe weather conditions, the lightweight inflatable craft still had moderate winds to tackle as they raced past Europa points. With 3 categories on offer for the European Championships, all local eyes were certainly on the smallest one, the stock event, where Gibraltar was represented by boat number 55, Team Gibraltar, driven by Leslie Figueras and co-piloted by Albert Perez. They recently finished their first season in the British Championships, where they competed in 5 of the 12 races across the UK, finishing second in one of the races and ending up 10th overall. Now back on home waters, they were looking to take Eastern Beach by storm and claim the European title, but it was never going to be an easy task. On Saturday, the racing moved to the confines of Eastern Beach, with the race course sending boats flying past just 5 metres off the shoreline, making it an excellent spectator sport, especially for those speed junkies out there. In the stock class, Team Gibraltar were having a right battle with boat number 35, Catfire from France. On Saturday, Leslie and Albert finished the day second to the French, but having positioned better than their rivals in Friday's long-haul race, things were pretty much open for either of the 2 boats to take the championship. The Pro Stock class provided 2 extra boats in the category, and it was the Scandinavian teams who were dominating, with Team Kamikaze from Norway having too much speed for the 2 Swedish boats to compete with. Sunday was the final day of racing, with the modified category boats also joining in on the action. There were 3 heats for each of the classes, culminating in a final for each at the end of the day. Despite coming second to the French the previous day, Team Gibraltar were able to win their 3rd heat on Sunday, putting themselves in a great position for the final. They started the final well and kept with the French for the first half of the race, but eventually began to fall behind on the straights as boat number 35 really pulled away from them coming out of each turn. In the end, the local team finished second once again out on the water, but the race marshals were apparently unsatisfied with France's victory, and so both the French and Gibraltarian boats were sent to be scrutinised by the race technicians. This proved vital, as the French team's engine was found to have been tampered with, giving them an extra 4 or 5 knots on the water, a massive difference in such a light boat. Team Gibraltar, on the other hand, were found to be in compliance with all the regulations, and so they were crowned champions of Europe. In the Pro Stock class, there was only ever going to be one winner, and that was Team Kamikaze from Norway, who finished ahead of the 2 Swedish boats, Red Green and Team Speed Cats respectively. The very last race of the weekend was the final of the modified category, which was ultimately claimed by the German team Maydays, with the UK's Team Ibex in second, and 101 Day from Belgium taking the bronze medal. So once again, Thundercat Racing provided excellent entertainment over 3 days here in Gibraltar. Once the races were over and everything was being packed away, I spoke to one of the head organisers, Wayne Warwick.
We've a bit rough at times. We had bad weather at the beginning of the week that made it very difficult for us, and we had to do a lot of changes. But the weather's ended up really good. The beach got busy today with lots of people coming down to support it. So on the whole, we can't complain, and we've had so much support from the authorities, from the government, the port department, the law enforcement agencies, everybody. It's been an amazing trip, just working with all the different departments, getting involved just to help us make this happen.
You've mentioned the weather there. It has really calmed down, a very flat surface on the water for the boats to race on. Is it fair to say that that's not really what the racers, what the pilots want? They want a bit of surf, which we did have earlier on in the week, but it was a bit too much on Thursday.
Yeah, we did. They wanted to be racing on the beach here on Tuesday, Wednesday, even Thursday. They wanted to be racing here, but we're trying to balance it with spectators, and we knew there wouldn't be any spectators here during the week because obviously people at work, children at school. So it was trying to balance it, and unfortunately the weekend has proved lovely for spectators. Sit down, enjoy the sunshine, the bars and the food, but not so good for the racers because the water was so calm for them.
Now, this is the second year in a row that the Thundercats have come to Gibraltar. Obviously, last year was one leg or two legs of the British Championships. This year being the European Championships. How has it differed from last year in terms of organisation and logistically?
It's been a much bigger event. Not only this time do we have to satisfy the rules from the Royal Yachting Association, but we've got to satisfy the rules of the world governing body, the UIM. So that's been quite difficult for us. It's made the event a lot more costly and more demanding on us to make sure that we met those standards that they require, in particular with safety. But I think we pulled it off. The Commissioner seems happy. He allowed us to race, so I'll have a meeting with him later on tonight and just go over it, but everything seems to have gone well.
And of course, as we've seen from the teams racing throughout the weekend, we've got visitors from all over Europe really. We've got the Scandinavians, Norway, Sweden, obviously the British, Germany. A lot of people coming from abroad to take part in this event. What sort of feedback have you got back from the visitors this weekend?
Really good. They've really enjoyed the racing. They found the long haul interesting. Most of them, the Northern Europeans, race in flat water, so they found all this flat water really to their advantage, and I think we've seen that with some of the results today that perhaps haven't gone in favour of the British that like surf. But no, they seem very happy. They've travelled a long way to be here, and I think they've enjoyed it. They've enjoyed Gibraltar very much. I know a lot of them have been on the rock tours, been to see the dolphins. They've enjoyed the cuisine and the social life as well. So no, I think that all in all they've had a good time.
Now, the feedback that I've been getting from this side of the shoreline, spectators and the people who have come down to enjoy the weekend, is that a lot of people really want to have a go at this. It seems quite popular amongst the spectators, and something that is possibly a next step into the future is a domestic scene of this. Is that something that could possibly happen in the future?
Yes, very much so. I don't see why not. It's probably one of the more affordable motorsports. Maybe there's some motorcycle sport that can compete with it, but it is certainly one of the more affordable motorsports. Gibraltar surrounded by water. Why not use it? Let's make the most of it. They're easy to launch from the shore, from the beach. Storage, you can deflate them and store them flat. So yeah, I would love to see that maybe the next step. We're hoping to leave our boat here. We're working now to try and get our boat so it stays here through the winter, and we want to try and do some promotional thing. The yacht club have very kindly allowed us to keep the boat there, so we're looking at doing some promotional stuff, like you said, give people tasters, tryouts, whatever, do some training possibly, and yeah, we'll speak with the authorities and see if it's possible to have a local Thundercat scene. Why not Thundercat Racing Gibraltar? Let's bring it on.
And finally, Wayne, as I mentioned, this is the second year in a row that the Thundercats have been coming to Gibraltar. Looking ahead, will they be back next year?
It was originally a 3-year plan. That's what we agreed with the GSLA. So, yeah, we'll be talking with the RYA, see what we do next year, whether it's again go back to a British Championship, another European Continental. Maybe we could try for the Worlds, but I think the Worlds are already being picked for next year. So, well, we'll see. We'll bring them back.
That's all for part one. After the break, we'll be talking football and netball, as well as rounding up the rest of the Rock's current sporting news.